If you get grossed out by the word networking, this episode is going to help you not feel so gross about it. I'm pretty sure anyway. I love talking with this guy, Donnie Boivin. He talks all about networking and strategies in a way that makes more sense. And it's more about the quality and how to approach it differently. It's one angle I have not heard before, so that was refreshing. There are a number of takeaways in here, so I can't say there's like four. The title talks about four tactics or strategies, and that's later on in the discussion towards the end. But there's so much stuff in between, so I highly recommend listening to all of it, and then you can see the four or listen to the four at the end, and then come back up. There's lots of good takeaways in how he explains how to do it qualitatively rather than it being a numbers game, because it's not a numbers game. And he makes a clear case for that, and there's a way to go toward it that makes sense as well. So there's lots of great takeaways. Okay, there you go. I do hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm Barb Davids, and I'm here to help you get more website traffic and leads with simple, actionable SEO and content strategies. In each episode, I share tips and tactics and talk with other business owners who help us grow both in our business and in life. I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. All right. Thanks for joining me today, Donnie. I appreciate your time. I'm very looking forward. I'm not going to say excited because I hate that word so much, but sometimes I say it. But I am really looking forward to this because it's a whole different take on networking. So thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. One, it's been a fun banter already, getting to know you. But two, networking has just been taught from a wrong perspective, wrong place, and it's been taught by transactional people. So I'm having a lot of fun kind of picking a fight around networking and helping people really wrap their head out of it so it actually works for them. So it should be a fun conversation.
Picking a fight. Excellent. This is going to be good. Okay. But first, I need to go here. So you're a baby goat dad.
I
And that
am.
was
I am.
really interesting. That's something different. So how did that start? And what is it, just like cuteness all day or what?
So I love that this has really become a thing. I never thought it would. So my wife and I, prior to launching my companies, moved out to the country. I knew that I was going to try and build a big personal brand, and to do that, I kind of wanted a sanctuary. I just wanted to be able to go and be able to get away from people. I jokingly tell people I want to be the most famous person in the town nobody knows. Right. So I that's always been my thought process. So we moved out here to the farm and we happened, my wife was a vet tech and then managed a vet clinic. So we both love animals dearly. We went to a trade days weekend, swap meet type thing, and we're walking along. And now I grew up on a farm, had a goat as a farm when I was on the farm, but never was like a goat farmer type thing. But we were walking down this trade days and there was two extremely tiny baby goats sitting in a dog cage that these people were selling, and I just looked at her, she looked at me, and we both went, "Crap." And so we came home with baby goats. We didn't have a barn, we didn't have a fence, we didn't have anything. So these baby goats lived in our house for 2 weeks while we built the barn, built the fence, and everything else, and that started our herd of dwarf Nigerian goats. So
I love
it's
it.
crazy.
Were they housebroken?
I People say they can housebreak goats. I don't think it's a thing.
Mm.
Luckily, they poop pellets and, you can usually know before they're getting ready to pee, so you can get them outside, but, they hung with the dogs, so bounced off of them, and it was a interesting time, and since then, we've had several baby goats in the house, whether a mom rejects them or whatever else, so we'll bottle feed them in the house and stuff, but yeah, we've been known to even drive down the road with baby goats in our laps, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, but yeah, it's a ton of cuteness, especially when they're little, and then they get ornery when they get older, but they still stay pretty cute. Because our tallest goat is 18 inches off the ground.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
tiny.
that's pretty tall. Okay. I was thinking that's pretty tall because I think baby goats, I think tiny, but I guess I don't really know. So,
Yeah, it depends on the breed, depends on the breed.
okay.
There's some breeds that are bigger than Great Danes.
Holy
Um,
crap.
yeah, some big goats, but we stay away from those. We like the
Okay.
little tiny ones.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that makes for a fun day.
Well, and if anybody's ever interested, if you follow me on LinkedIn, this is how it really became a thing and why it's on my LinkedIn profile. Every Sunday, I post a video called Baby Goat Sunday. And so I'll do a video of the baby goats playing on the farm. And it's gotten so known now, like if I don't post it, people
Yeah.
send me DMs or like, where are the baby goats at?
It's a
It's
nice
fun.
break in the day for people, I'm sure.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right,
All right,
right.
cool. Well, I had heard you on another podcast, and I was really intrigued by the theory that you were talking about. I guess let's start there, and then we can see where it goes. There's
Sure.
a thing called triangle industry. Is that what it was called?
The synergy triangle.
Okay, the synergy triangle. And what's that about?
So this is the foundations I have for all networking as a whole. So this leads right into a really fun conversation. So what most of my clients and most people that are in our network, so I run a networking organization called Success Champions Networking, B2B networking group all throughout North and South America. And when our clients their typical clients are mid-market companies. So most of our clientele, they're companies doing under a $250,000 a year in revenue, most likely. But they're selling into companies that are doing a million to $100 million, right? So that's the clients they work with. When you sell into that mid-market level, right? That's your end client. Those end mid-market CEOs and decision makers, they're not out networking. Like, you're not gonna see a CEO of a $10 million, 200 employee company sitting at a chamber event or a happy hour or a typical networking group. They're just not out there networking. And so, networking as it was taught was you go out, you meet a whole bunch of people, you hopefully they introduce you to somebody and you get business done. But what actually happens is everybody goes out and they sell each other. They're not getting into their client base. They're selling to each other. So website sells to a photographer, photographer sells to the SEO person, right? And it all stays in the group and it doesn't expand outside the group in most cases. So when you sell B2B and you're going after these corporations, you can't sell each other their services because if you're a telecom company, you need companies with 50 employees. If you're an MSP, you need a company, with 20 plus computers. Right? You're not going to sell to the other solopreneurs and the people in the group because it doesn't make business sense. You need larger volume. So now the synergy triangle came about with the understanding that we're not networking with our end user clients. We literally most times can't sell to the people that we're working with, that we're networking with. So in understanding that case, we had to flip it. Instead of look for referrals, and a referral is an introduction with a sales call attached. Like, both parties know why they're being introduced. One is looking for the other person's services. The other one is looking to sell those services. So they know that there's a sales conversation going to happen. Okay. That's a referral. Everything else is an introduction. And once we understand this dynamic in our world, we're not trying to get to referrals. We're trying to get to introduce to the people that are our ideal synergy partners who sell to our perfect client, but are not competition.
Mm,
So, for instance, if I'm a website company, let's say nonprofits is a good key target for me, right? That's who I need to sell to. Uh, what we have to think about is what size nonprofit do we want? Well, if you really want to think about who can afford website services and pay for that, or even SEO service, those type of things, they're going to be a substantial nonprofit to have the budget to be able to spend on those type of services. So that substantial nonprofit, let's say they're a $10 million nonprofit, they're going to have 25 to 40 employees in there. So now we think, who else would sell to a nonprofit that's doing, $10 million in revenue, 25 to 50 employees? And I just know for a fact that for like website companies, telecom and MSPs, IT companies are great referrals partners for website companies because now they're going after bigger deals. So the synergy triangle is you put yourself at the top of the triangle, you put your perfect client in the center of the triangle, dead center. And then you put down at the bottom left and right, who are other industries that would sell to that perfect client but are not competition for me? And that forms out your triangle. So when we network, we're saying, I'm a website company. I'd love to work with nonprofits doing 10 million plus, but I'd love to meet a telecom company and an MSP company. And what happens is people really go, ooh, I know an MSP. Ooh, I know a telecom, right? And they can make that introduction happen. And the most fantastic thing happen is when you make this introduction happen, the referrals come in droves because now you guys can collaborate on particular clients going after the same thing. So where referral may lead to a one-time transaction, the right introduction may lead you to thousands of referrals over a lifetime. So
mm.
that's what we're trying to do with all that, if that makes sense. And sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No, that was great. Yeah. Thanks for explaining that. That makes more sense. Is that what we get wrong then, or is there a different take to that side of
Yeah,
things?
so what most people are doing is they're out there networking only focused on trying to get the end user client. So, like, things like elevator pitches are the stupidest thing on the planet. Business cards are the dumbest thing on the planet. Like, you don't need either in this day and age. Imagine going to a networking event after hours and say some stupid jingle or song as part of your introduction. You know, you walk up to somebody and you say, "Hey, I'm Donnie, and I do junk mail that works. You really should come buy my commercial printing service," or whatever stupid crap they teach out there nowadays, right? A elevator pitch was created because people were literally riding up in elevators and they thought they needed 30 seconds to be able to tell somebody what they do, and that person goes, "Oh my God, where have you been my entire life? I've been looking for your services," right? It doesn't happen in the B2B world. Right? That happens in the transactional B2C world. If you're selling to consumers, you better have a pitch, right? And because everybody, when you sell to consumers, everybody you talk to is a potential client. When you sell to B2B, very few people are you actually going to be out networking and talking to are going to be a potential client. So you don't need a pitch. You need to keep it very, very, very simple. And it's very simple is I do X and I'm looking to meet people that I can be referral partners with in these industries. How did you get into what you do? Right? It's really that simple. There's no pitch, there's no jingle, there's no anything out there. And what happens is because networking was created by transactional businesses, financial advisors, bankers, realtors, mortgage, nothing against those people, but everybody they talk to is a potential client. So the way networking was taught, the theories behind it were right, but the way they taught the methodologies just sent people down the wrong path to not get any business. This is why, the theories like givers gain or freaking help as many people get what they want and you'll get what you want are false analogies because when you look at a group full of people that are networking and you say, how many of you have networked your butt off, opened a ton of doors for people, and got nothing in return, and watch the hands fly up. And the reason the hands fly up is because they don't understand the ideology of synergy. How do I get to my referral partners, not my end user clients?
Mhm.
Um, so the fight that I'm trying to get people to understand is when you only focus on the end user client, who you can sell to, then you lose in a B2B game.
Mm.
Because, yeah, it's like a copier sales guy that needs to go sell copiers into a corporation. Like, trying to convince a realtor that he's the best copier salesperson on the planet and he should that realtor's never gonna run into a company that's gonna need copier sales. Very rarely is that ever gonna happen. So they're better off looking at that realtor going, "Hey, copier salesperson, I'd love to meet people that you might know that are in the print and promo industries, or people you know that are in, cybersecurity or technology inside of companies." Because now that realtor is gonna know people in those lanes and can introduce them to people in those industries. So, yeah, most people are coming at it networking unintentionally as it's a transaction and not a means to get deep into referral partners, clientele.
Yeah. I think recently I've come across some people that it feels very transactional, like they're only about the quantity of people that they meet because they feel like it's a numbers game.
Yep.
And so it feels very gross, basically.
Yep.
And I met with a couple people just because I felt like it was the right thing to do, but at the same time, you wonder how can we say no to there's a balance between sincerity in networking and like feeling like you have to do it or like what how do you balance that?
So if you're getting bad introductions and having bad meetings, that's our fault, right? So it means we're doing it to ourselves. Part of our job out there in networking is to teach our network who we need to be introduced to. Like, an introduction doesn't carry as much weight as a referral does. Like, an introduction, you can make those to any people and they can go hang out. A referral, though, because of the sales call attached, you're literally vouching for the person that you're giving the referral to, right? So what most people have not made the distinction between an introduction and a referral. So they think they're giving a referral when really they're just giving an introduction,
Mm.
right? Most times. So the power in saying no is a real thing. Like, if I'm introduced to somebody and they're in a known industry, or if it's an MLM, I'm instantly out. Like, if you introduce me to an MLM, I'm just gonna tell them have a great life.
Yeah.
Right? I'm out. If it's some other industries that are just known that that's just gonna be a pitch, then, I'll remove myself from the conversation, right? Say, "Thank you. I appreciate it. There's nothing, no doors. I know a ton of financial advisors. There's nothing I can do at this point," right? But it's my job to let the network know what's a good introduction for me. Like, what's a good conversation I get to? And just because I network with you, 2 thoughts here. And just because I'm out networking with you does not mean I have to sit down and have a coffee with you. But if there's people you're out networking with that you don't want to sit down and have a coffee with, I'd check where the hell you're networking at. Because odds are you're networking in a lot of the wrong places. Like for me, I have nothing against realtors, mortgage, title, all those people. But if I go to an event and walk in and it's all those people, I'm out. Like I can help them. I can open doors for them, but they can't return the favor. Life insurance is a really good example. I have life insurance people that tell me all the time, they're like, I sell into companies. I'd love to do a bunch of policies into companies. And I said, okay, well, let's play this out. If I were to introduce you to a company that had 50 employees and you were able to write life insurance policies for all those employees, that'd be amazing, right? And they're like, absolutely, I'd love to do that. I said, how do you return a favor to me? How do you introduce me to a company with 50 employees and they, go glassy eyed really quick because they realize they don't have that contact. They don't have that base of clientele. And then they'll look at me and go, but we want to be in that clientele. Cool. You want to be in that clientele, go sell to that clientele, right? This is the difference between B2B. When you're in B2B, you're not just relying on networking to build your business.
Mm.
You're relying on multiple avenues. You're probably doing some sort of cold outreach. You're probably doing some sort of cold calling. You're probably building a brand on LinkedIn. So you're going after the end user client on your own and then bringing that back to the network. When you're, not trying to get into that level, even if I introduce you to that company with 50 employees and you've not worked with that industry, you're going to blow the entire call and make me look like an ass because you don't know how to have a conversations with a company at that level. And that really chaps some people's ass that I say this, and I love it. Because it's just the truth of nature when it comes to networking.
Right. So let's say there's some people that get together and they network and they send some introductions to each other and it doesn't pan out maybe in the beginning for whatever reason and there's no help for either one, but they're like, yep, maybe something in the future. What does it look like with how to reconnect without it feeling, because sometimes when I'm reconnecting with somebody, I feel like it feels very transactional because I'm not
Mhm.
very,
It's because it is.
emotional.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
very transactional. So
Yeah.
let's look at it from this perspective. If I were to ask you, do you know a bookkeeper? What would the answer be?
I'd be like, yeah,
Okay.
mine.
Cool. So instantly when I asked you that question, you thought of a bookkeeper, his or her name popped up in your head, right? Right. And so that person, that individual owns that piece of real estate in your head. Like when you think bookkeeper, you're instantly, what's that person's name, by the way?
Anna.
Cool. You're instantly going to start thinking of Anna, right? She
Uh-huh.
owns that space.
Mhm.
If somebody said, I needed a bookkeeper, are you going to refer anybody but Anna?
Probably not.
Right. They own that spot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what we have to do is we have to own that piece of real estate in people's head. Like for you, I heard you say you do SEO. So when anybody thinks of SEO, you've got to own that piece of real estate in their head. So to reconnect, there's one simple move. And you go and you look at whatever industry they're in, and you think, who would be their best referral or synergy partner? And then instead of reaching out and going, hey, we haven't talked in a while, would love to catch up sometime, hope things are well, you go and make an introduction for them. You go, hey, Anna, I'm betting CPAs are a good introduction for you. Let me introduce you to Alexis, who I know who's a CPA. Y'all go have a great conversation. By the way, would love to catch up with you sometime. Right? Now
Mhm.
there's something in there that they can go, wow, shit, they were thinking about me. Okay. And in that moment, the people who do things for us own that piece of real estate.
Mm.
So if I give you an introduction to 3, 4, 5 people, and then somebody said, "Hey, I'm looking for B2B networking groups," my name's gonna be top of the list because I'm opening doors for you,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So that's the way we own that piece of real estate. Introductions, great way to own that piece of real estate. A referral, the best way to own that piece of real estate,
Mhm.
right? So that's just the lane we have to play in.
Okay. How do we stay top of mind? The best what's the best way to stay top of mind with these connections that we're making?
Number one way is introductions. It's by far introductions are so easy to make and do. It's the number one way to stay. The second favorite way to stay at top of mind is to build a massive personal brand.
Mm,
So let's just throw a name out there. Love him or hate him, Tony Robbins. Okay. Tony Robbins, I understand right now, has 107 companies to the tune of $7 billion. And if I were to ask you right now, Barb, to name one of his companies, would you be able to name one of his companies?
no.
Right? So when you ask people traditionally, what is Tony Robbins' business? They're going to say motivational speaker. That's like the number one thing that pops up for him. Tony is a businessman from hell, right? Just on black and white, love him or hate him. The dude looks like he's done a lot of the right moves in business, right? $7 billion is no joke. Okay.
Mhm.
So Tony has one job in his company, and that's to be the face of Tony Robbins. We have one job in our businesses, and that's to be the face of our business. See, when people buy something from us, they are buying us and then getting whatever we sell. So if we think about everything we purchase, 9 times out of 10, we made a purchase, especially the bigger the purchase, because we liked and trust the individual that we were dealing with. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to become known on scale. If Tony Robbins puts out a book right now, he'll sell 1,000,000 copies without even batting an eye. If I put out a book right now, I'll be lucky to sell 200 copies.
Okay.
Like, I've got 14,000 followers on LinkedIn, but that's not going to convert to 14,000, book sales,
Right.
type of thing. So we have to think, how do I become a personal brand that owns that piece of real estate? LinkedIn's one of my favorite platforms, especially if you're in the B2B game. I spend a tremendous amount of time on there putting out original thought content, putting out original ideas, commenting on post. But that's just one play on getting my personal brand out there. The other
Mhm.
play, I'm being interviewed on podcasts, like sitting right here with you. I'm speaking on stages. I'm hosting my own workshops. We're have our own private communities. We're building champions, people that just love what we do. Like we just did the Badass Business Summit back in September. And for 4 weeks after the summit, all the attendees were all over LinkedIn just singing its praises and how awesome and amazing it was. And we didn't ask them to do that. They were doing that on their own accord. So when you deliver amazing things for people, they will tell others about you. When they get the results that they were expecting or achieve beyond, they'll tell others about you.
Mhm.
So build a personal brand, create your champions, put yourself out there, and for me, it's a field of dreams. That's the way I keep looking at it. Everybody said, build it and they will come. I really believe that if you build your personal brand, people will come to you. So you don't have to do all the hard, harsh cold calling and door kicking and all that stuff to go find them. It
Yeah.
works really well so far for us.
Awesome. Okay, what else do we need to know about networking that I haven't asked?
So most people have no idea how to actually work a networking event. And it's really, really fascinating to me. So traditionally, when you go to an event, people walk in and they'll sign in, they'll go in, they'll find their group of friends, and they'll usually get stuck there. They might try and meet one or two people, but they don't know how to maneuver that room. So here's cool. So
Definitely.
here's 4 strategies people can employ right now that will fix their problem at any event to make sure they're meeting people. So, my favorite one my first one is when you sign in at that reception desk, if it's an event that has a sign-in sheet, right? Sign in, get your stupid name tag, which I refuse to wear, and then I want you to stand at the end of the registration desk and don't say a word. Why would I want you to stand at the end of the registration desk?
No idea, but tell me.
Because people, when they come in and sign up, they're gonna not know where to go, what's next, what they're supposed to do. So they're going to start looking around. And lo and behold, there's you at the end of the reception desk. And they're going to walk up thinking you work there and go, "Can you tell me where I go?" And your
Right.
response is, I don't work here. I have no idea." Well, let's go figure it out. For most people that are out networking, if somebody else will break the ice, we can have a conversation. It's breaking the ice where we screw everything up. So literally by just standing at the end of the reception desk, watch how many people come up to you. And if you get stuck out there on the floor like you don't know what to do next, go back to the reception desk, right? And just stand there and the next person's gonna come up and say, you know, "Can you help me out? Where do I need to go?" And now
Mhm.
that you've already done it once, you're like, "Oh, come on, I'll show you where the bar is," right? And you build that confidence up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one way. The second way to do this is you sign in at the reception desk, and then you tell the people that you're signing in with, and you say, "This is my first time at the event. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here. Can you point me to somebody who could kind of give me a guide, walk me through this?" And I promise you, the person they're fixing to point out is the most extroverted, crazy person in the room, and they are going to take you under their wing and they are going to maneuver the room for you. And they're gonna take you around and say, "Hey, let me introduce you to so and so. Guys, come meet so and so. This is their first event," right? They are gonna take care of all the heavy lifting for you. Okay? So it's a really good so just ask for them to have somebody guide you around the room. Okay? Third way to do this is you sign in, you do like what most of us do, go to the bar and get your liquid courage, right? And then you head straight to the wall. Okay? And you walk the perimeter of the room until you run into the person standing by themselves. Okay? And all as you say when you bump into that person is, "God, I hate coming to these events, but I really know I need to." And watch what they say because they're going to be like, "Me too." Ice broken. And now you're going to have a cool conversation. Okay? So the truth be told, and I've done this in rooms of the thousands, if you say, "Raise your hand if I'm an introvert." You'll see more than half the room raise their hand. Keep your hand up if you run your own company, and only like 1 or 2 hands drop. The people that are sitting solo on the wall are decision makers in companies. They know they need to be out there networking, talking to people. They just haven't figured out how to break into the scene, break into the crowd. By you coming around and just bumping into them, you become their hero and watch how much they open up to you. I have personally picked up a crap ton of business over the years by doing this, just walking and bumping into the solo people,
Mm.
right? And once the ice is broke, usually we can have a pretty cool conversation because I'm kind of a social extrovert, meaning or situational extrovert, right? So some situations I rock, some situations I absolutely suck at. So given the right situation, right, I can work a room no problem. Some situations screw me up, but if you go save other people, amazing things happen. Fourth way is you take a wingman, right? So a wingman, you need to find your most extroverted, crazy friend you have. And you go to a group and you say, "Get me into up to people." And you let that crazy person go make the introduction, bring you in, and then the crazy person peels off and they go on to the next group. When your introverted side starts triggering off, you're like, "All right, too much people, too much people, too much people." Your friend is home based in like in a game of tag. Okay. You go back and you find your friend. When you get back to your friend, you collect yourself, get your introverted head back to order, and they'll introduce you to people, and then they'll peel off again and let them go, right? So they will do the major hard part of networking for you, okay? So those 4 ways just work really, really well. But I hate business cards. So this will be helpful for your people as well. Back when I was just a sales guy, I used to have boxes of other people's business cards on my desk. Like I collected them like with trophies or something. Right, but I'd never follow up on those damn things. You know, I always say, "I'll follow up on it eventually," but you never do, right?
Right.
So, what I figured out is there's one particular thing you need if it's somebody you really wanna follow up with. So, let's say you're having an amazing conversation with somebody, and you're like, "Man, this is somebody I wanna have a further conversation with." What you do is you go, "You know what? We should get together, have a cup of coffee, or grab a Zoom. I'd love to get to know more about you. Give me your cell phone. I'll text you my information, and then I'll send you my calendar link so we can set something up." And 9 times out of 10, they're like, "Oh, cool. Here's my cell phone." There's nothing more powerful in this world than having somebody's cell phone, right?
Mhm.
Emails fall up into spam, everything else. Getting their personal cell phone is just amazing. Now, here's the flip side of why I don't do business cards. There's a lot of people that want my contact information that I don't want to have my contact information. I don't want to end up on their newsletter. I don't want to be pitched. I don't want to whatever. So, when you're networking with people and they say, "Hey, I'd love to meet up with you, contact you with sometimes," you go, "Cool." You go straight to your LinkedIn app on your phone. You click the search bar of your LinkedIn app. You scoot to the right, and there's a little square box in that search bar. You click that square box, and it pulls up a QR code for your LinkedIn profile.
Hmm.
You say, "Cool, connect with me here." They'll take a camera shot, and they become a follower of yours, not a connection.
Okay.
Unless they actually hit the connect thing, right? So now I can filter out who I actually want to follow up, meet with, and the likes. And it's a surefire way to work a group and not have to deal with 200 realtors or 200 financial advisors, right? That are trying to get time on your calendar. So it's a fantastic tool to make sure none of this happens. So
That was a lot of great advice, very tactical. So thank you. That was
absolutely.
cool. All
Absolutely.
right.
It's what how I wish somebody would have taught me originally. I had to learn all this crap the hard way.
Yeah.
But nobody broke all this down for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're breaking it down because that's what this show is about. Tactical. That's good. Okay. What is the one thing that you hope someone would take away from this episode?
So, for me is pick one of the things that I've talked about and deploy it. You know, I don't care which tactic you put in place. I hope it's introductions above everything else, but deploy it and put it in play. Because what happens most times is we get taught something or we hear something and we unintentionally go all in on it, and then we forget about everything else, or we don't take action on it at all. Running a business is the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, and if you look at social media, it looks like we're the only person in the world screwing things up because it looks like everybody else is fucking crushing it, right? It looks
Yeah.
like they're just dominating the marketplace. And you're sitting here going, what the hell am I doing wrong? How are all these people? But early in my business, I think it's helpful for your people. We almost lost a farm to foreclosure. My wife's Jeep was repossessed as we were building the business. My wife had to cash in her 401k to get her Jeep back and save the farm. This is not easy. And so what people unintentionally do because there's almost this act of desperation in their business that, oh my God, they need to get a client. They got to pay the bills and the like. Everything becomes a silver bullet. Right? Everything they hear becomes, "Ooh, that's gonna be the thing that saves my business." Right? And the biggest thing I want people to understand is nothing is gonna save your business other than this. Go tell 100 people what you do and ask them to buy. That repetition of telling 100 people, so you don't need funnels. Sorry about this. You don't need SEO. You don't need websites. You don't need chatbots. You don't need a LinkedIn pro. You don't need all that stuff. Only thing you need to do is tell 100 people what you do and ask them to buy. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to learn how to actually sell the shit you're trying to sell. The problem for most people is they're not getting enough reps in the conversation, the actual sales conversation of their business. So they fumble it every time they get into it, or they feel awkward every time they get into it. Your sales calls need to be done in such a way that you know what the person's gonna say before the words even come out of their mouth. Not because you're taking advantage of them, because you've heard the scenario so many times. Like, and if you do this, you're gonna learn how to actually disqualify people from your services. Because let's face it, we've all taken on clients we shouldn't have, right?
Yep.
But if you learn to disqualify up front, like I have a rule, I don't want a client that I work with that I won't have a cocktail with.
Mm.
Right,
It's a
and it's
good
a
one.
good it really is because it'll
Yeah.
tell you a lot. Because
Yeah.
all of us who sell services, you're gonna be in a long relationship with the people you're selling to. You wanna make sure they're people that you actually wanna hang out with.
Mm.
But if you come at it look at it from the perspective of how do I disqualify this person, like, it gets really, really easier to have a real fun sales conversation.
Mhm.
So, because, you can say, right? is this person actually going to do the work and the things I need them to do in a timely manner, right? Do I want to hang out with them? Can they actually afford my services, right? And we go through this kind of checklist, and then as we're having conversations with people, we're just saying, all right, cool. Do I like them? Do they have the money? Are they think they can do it? And we're checking the boxes off as we go along, and usually we can find out whether we want to make an offer or not. And more oftentimes than not, people are making offers to people they shouldn't be
Hmm.
because the only thing they're relying on is networking to build a business, right? And if you only rely on networking, you lose because the only people you can sell to is your network. You've got to have other things going to make networking actually work for you. So,
I love it. That's a great takeaway.
thank you. Thank you.
So, for the heads you've just blown, and if they would like to talk to you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. Before I do that, so
Okay.
guys, if you have hung out with us this long and you got anything out of this episode, do me a favor. Take a screenshot wherever you're listening or watching this, post it on social media, give your takeaways, tag me and Barb in it. And if I see the tag, I will come comment on it and engage on the post and give you some love on that.
I won't. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Right?
I totally will.
Yeah. Having my own shows, hardest thing I can tell you to do is to build a following, build an audience, right? To get people listening here. So
Mhm.
if you'll take a screenshot, post it out on social, it lets Barb know that this is the type of content that she needs to continue to put out. It also lets Barb know that you guys are listening and really interested in the stuff she's talking about here on the show. It helps tremendously. So do that as a personal favor to me, guys. Take a screenshot, post it on social media, tag us in there. We'll come say hi and hello. If you wanna get in touch with me, there's a couple of easy ways to do it. One, you can go find me on LinkedIn, just Donnie Boivin. I'm the only one on the platform. Last name is spelled B as in boy, O-I, V as in Victor, I-N. You can go to successchampionnetworking.com. That's our B2B networking groups, or you can check out our summit at badassbusinesssummit.com. So those are the 3 fastest ways to get to me.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Donnie.
Absolutely.
Very grateful for it. Thank you.
Oh, my honor, my honor. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And that wraps up this episode. Stay tuned for more episodes to help your business thrive online. We'll see you in the next sweet spot. Cheers. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're looking for SEO and content marketing help, you can find all kinds of information at compassdigitalstrategies.com. And if you like the episode, please tell a friend. Cheers.